This week I did 2 sprint sessions for the first time in a couple of months, and these were a 60 meter time trial session and a 100 meter time trial session. If you're new here, my name's Harvey. I'm a UK based sprinter and I'm aiming to break 11 seconds in the 100 meter sprint this summer in 2025. Coming off the back of a very successful indoor season where I got a new PB in the 60 metres of 7.12, and I also made my first county championship final since 2022. I've been struggling with a little bit of hamstring issues following the indoor season in the form of right hamstring tendonitis. I've massively reduced the volume and tried to maintain the intensity while I let this recover, and I have seen some good progress in my recovery. We're not fully there yet, but we are on the right path. So I decided this week, ahead of my season opener, to do a 100 metre time trial, just to see where I was at. So after my weekend away in Valencia, I took a few days to rest and recover. So I pretty much had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as rest, mobility, physio type days. And then Thursday, I did a 60 metre time trial session where I did a few reps of 60 metres and I came out with a new personal best. So this shows I'm in great shape. I'm really looking forward to what I can run in a 100 metres. Following this, I then had from a very relaxing, low training few days to quite a high intensity, busy few days. Following that 60 metre time trial session on the Thursday evening, Friday I then did a max bench pressing session where I went for a new PB. Despite not really training strength, it was a bit of a silly thing to do. Not silly, but I wasn't really in a position to get a new bench press PB. I did get very close to my PB and I did try a new weight, which I didn't quite make. And then on the Saturday, I spent a lot of time boarding the loft in my house. So that took about 8 hours. I was up in the loft, drilling, cutting, lifting things around. So very fatiguing, although not individually fatiguing. It took its toll, over a very long day on Saturday. Then went back to the track on Sunday and did a 100 metre time trial session. Don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't going to get much out of that following a very high intensity sprint session, a very high intensity gym session, and then a very fatiguing day of housework on the Saturday. But I went for it anyway, and the times were a bit disappointing, but all to be taken with a pinch of salt. But we'll get into that later in the video. So let's see what I've got up to this week. Very interesting week of training, very backloaded in terms of the volume, pretty much did nothing Monday to Wednesday. And even following that, coming from Valencia, didn't really do much either, apart from a bit of traveling, which can be a bit tiring. So on the Thursday, I did 360 meters. The first 2 reps were fairly standard, both 7.44. And in this second rep, I did cut it for that final 10. So that's why the pace dropped off a bit, but really good, hitting a 0.97. So I know the speed's there. So in the last rep, I really went for it. I was warm, was going to push all out, and I got a 7.26 new PB, new training PB in the 60 meters. Considering I ran a 7.35 a few days before I got my 7.12, if you're going to make a direct comparison, this is going to put me at somewhere like 7.03. I'm maintaining that I think I'm in 7.0 shape right now, which is really good going into the outdoor season. That was a 4.22 followed by a 107, 100, 0.97 again. So again, hitting a really good top speed. Great start, great top speed. The 107 for the 30 to 40 is a little bit slower than I'm used to. Again, I've described in previous videos how I'm kind of struggling with that transition phase at the moment, both psychologically and physically with the right hamstring tendonitis. But hitting a PB with all these issues and a really weird week, I think, is a very good position to be in. Then went for the bench press PB and got up to 95 kilos, which is still very, respectable. My PB's 97.5. Haven't really bench pressed for 6 months. So, yeah, good to see the strength still there. Followed by a bit of rowing for cardio and then some physio and mobility exercises to finish the session off. Then had my day of board in the loft, which took way too long and we didn't even finish it. So then going into the 100 meter time trials, and in contrast to the 60 meter time trial session, which was really good, I then had quite a disappointing 100 meter time trial session. So my PB from December when I was in Australia was 11.44, I believe, with reaction time. So that was the time to beat. And in the first rep, I got 11.86. So the top speed was not there at all. The start wasn't horrendous, still fairly slow compared to what I've been running. But to be honest, it's all slow. The start slow, the top speed slow. That last fly 10 of 1.10, having the cones at 30, 60, 90, 100. So I could get the 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and the 90 to 100. I'm not getting up to speed. Accelerated poorly and didn't have any speed to maintain really. So poor rep, but gave myself a good bit of rest, was getting warmed up. Second rep 11.68. So this is a bit more respectable, but still nothing's really there. 4.38 for the start, first 30, very slow for me. 3.11, 3.14 for the 230 meter flies. I should be down knocking on the door of sub 3 for those. So I'm losing tenths of a second there, which isn't good. Although 1.04 for the final fly 10. So that's not too bad. That's okay. But the top speed wasn't there. The acceleration wasn't there. And then I was getting a little bit frustrated at this point. And the last rep was just an absolute shambles. 11.96. Almost went over the 12-second mark. 4.48. I mean, that's not even a start. That is, that's jogging. That's silly. And then 3.25 for a fly 30. These are, warm-up reps when I'm, haven't even got my spikes on type times. 3.14 and a 1.09. I think it can, it can't be understated how much your readiness and fatigue can affect your times. My CNS was absolutely fried. All out sprinting on Thursday, maximum lifting in the gym on Friday, and then an 8-hour endurance session boarding a loft on the Saturday. So I was in no shape to run fast. But that being said, I didn't think it would be that slow. So to be honest, that is the 100 meter time trial really meaning to give me like a idea of what I'm going to run next weekend in my season opener. And it gave me nothing really. It's a horrible session. It didn't make me feel confident, but it also has, it's so bad it almost is irrelevant that, if I was running like 11.5s, 11.4s in training consistently, I'd be disappointed because that would be, looking at 11.3 off the bat, which My season's best last year, for those that don't know, is 11.31. My slowest season I've done since I've started sprinting. Had a lot of injury issues over the last couple of years. So I don't really want to be running slower than 11.3 this season. So my target, as was for the 60, is to open beating my season's best last year of 11.31. So I'm looking to run 11.2 at least. And I know my speed's there. The right hamstring tendonitis is holding me back, and it's not fully recovered yet. So we're going to have to ramp up the recovery on that. It might come to a point where I have to make a decision to stop sprinting for a few weeks to really try and kick that on the head. I am kind of, playing on the edge of injury recovery here by sprinting all out once a week still. It's not aggravating it as much as doing my normal training would, which is sprinting 2 to 3 times a week. But at the same time, what I wanted to avoid was completely stopping, losing all my speed, and essentially writing the season off for time. So this is sort of a balanced approach I decided to take. Whether it will pay off, we'll see in the future. I know I'm quick, kind of forgetting the 100-meter time trial. What were my 60 times there? In the first rep, 7.54. So 0.3 of a second off what I ran a few days before for the first rep. And then 7.49, again, 0.2 of a second off, over 0.2 of a second off my best rep. And then the last rep, 7.73. So they're just not anywhere near the ballpark of what I ran on the Thursday. So I'm sort of writing that session off. It's very difficult, when you do run times like that and you feel like you're going all out and the times just aren't stacking up. But in hindsight, looking what I did throughout the week, it does make sense, although it's still frustrating. So next week, we've got the season opener. I'm going to be opening with the Surrey County Champs. Did kind of want to get a race in before, but how my recovery's been going hasn't really allowed for that. And I'm glad I didn't, because they might have been the times that I ran. So yeah, we'll see how we get on in the Surrey County Champs. Kind of planning to do a similar thing next week. Bit of a prep session on Thursday, and then I've got the 100s on Sunday. I'd love to do the 200s as well, but the way the county champs work is they do the 200s on the Saturday, the 100s on the Sunday. If it was the other way round, I'd be much more likely to do both. But yeah, in general, doing 100s after 200s is difficult, but especially with the niggle that I've got, it's just not doable, not feasible. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you found it useful, hope you found it enjoyable, and let's see how I get on in my season opener next week. Catch you in the next one.